Hi, I'm Gareth Green, and this is going to be the first of 8 videos where we're just going to be thinking about extending kind of chord knowledge and use of chords, because lots of people have been saying to me, I'm okay just using basic chords, but I want to do something a bit more colourful, maybe something that's a bit cool. Well, what do I do? And of course, one of the things you can do is to get into the world of extended chords. So just so we all know what we're talking about with extended chords, if I just take a chord of C major, C, E, G, which sounds like that, then any triad, that's the basis of a chord, contains a root, a third and a fifth. And we can extend these by adding more thirds on the top. So if I put a B on there, it becomes a 7th chord. That's a C major 7. If you made it a B flat, it would be a C7, but don't worry too much about that. If you're in C major, using chord 1, it's a 1-7. If I put a D on the top, I can make it a 1-9. If I put an F on the top, I can make it a 1-11, and if I put an A on the top, I can make it a 1-13. There's no point in going beyond 13, because if you get to 15, I'll be back at C, which was the note I started with at the bottom. So that's just a quick shot at how to extend chords, if anybody's unclear about it. So when I'm talking here about D minor 9, well, I'm talking about a D minor chord, D, F, A, or that's chord 2 in C major if you want to key reference that in C. So D, F, A is a root, a third and a fifth. Add a 7th, that's C. Add a 9th, that's E. And that gives me a D9 chord. Then I've got a G13 chord. So here's a chord of G. G, B, D. Add a 7, 9, 11, 13, and you get a G13. One thing just to be aware of when you do these extension chords is it's quite a fistful of notes, isn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 notes. And you may decide, well, I don't want to have 7 notes. And actually, when you pile them all up like that, it can be a little bit of a clash. You might want to use them all, but you don't have to. That's the point. So if you're doing something like a 13th chord, you'll notice that what I've done here is to use a root of the chord at the bottom, and then I've got a third in there. I've got a 7th, so I've missed out the 5th. Then I've got the 13th, but I haven't got a 9th or an 11th. So you can thin out these chords as long as you've got notes that kind of reference the chord well. So if you're doing a 13th, well, a root, a third, a 7th, and a 13th will do the job nicely. If you want to add anything else in, well, you could put that D in, that 5th, but it's a bit kind of not quite so clever. You could put that in. That's a really nice one to add. If you put the 9th in, the 11th, yeah, okay. But the 9th is a good one to add if you want to make it into a 5-part chord. But you can experiment with those and see where you go. Then I've got the C major 7. Well, that's the bit we were talking about down here. And then just to give us a flavour of something that's using notes that don't belong to the key of C major, which is where you can get really colourful with extended chords, then I've got this, which is an A7 flat 9 chord, or you might want to think about it as a 5-7 with a flat 9 of D minor. Okay, so what am I talking about here? Well, A7 is going to be A, C sharp, E, G. The flat 9th, instead of being a B natural, is a B flat. So that's what I mean by the flat 9. So it's just sort of getting your head round how we come up with extended chords in the first place. And the best way of doing this is just experiment with them. If you've been used to a world of just kind of using basic diatonic chords, in other words, basic chords, a root, a third and a fifth, maybe a C chord, an F chord, a G chord, maybe you've got as far as a D minor, an E minor, an A minor chord or something. Maybe you've come across some augmented and diminished chords, but maybe if you haven't had a chance to explore extended chords, this is the idea. They're just going to give you some basic progressions using extended chords that might sound quite cool. So these are the 4 chords that I've got in this first video. So here's the D minor 9, the G13, the C major 7, and now the A7 flat 9. So you can hear that actually that's quite a kind of rich collection of chords, isn't it? Well, can you kind of get too carried away with extended chords? Some people feel that that's a temptation. Maybe it's a bit like chocolate cake. You know, you have one slice and really enjoy it. You have two slices and then think, maybe I shouldn't have done. It's a bit like that sometimes, but it depends what you do with it. I mean, if I just play those as block chords like I have done, it's not kind of overexciting. It's all right, isn't it? But you could do something like break up those chords. Suddenly just arpeggiating the chords like that kind of feels quite nice, doesn't it? You could do them as block chords with a bit of rhythm in them. And you could kind of decorate around that. So different ways in which you can decorate around things, where you could just do a little bit of melodic doodling at the top. You could do something like that. You could decide you're going to have the bass moving. And then maybe do a bit of something in the middle as well. Lots of different things you can do with it. But what I'm giving you here is just a set of 4 chords to give you a bit of confidence with working with extended chords and thinking about some of these progressions. If you think about these progressions, if you're kind of classically trained, well, 2-5-1 is a very standard progression. So all we're doing is taking that and say, well, instead of just going 2-5-1, go 2-9, 5-13, 1-7. And then the idea of this last chord is just to throw in something else that sets you off with a slightly different colour using chromatic notes in relation to C major, the B flat and the C sharp. And from there, you could come back to, you know, I don't know, you could come back to the D minor 7 or the D minor 9 you started with, because this last chord that we talked about, the A7 flat 9, is basically a dominant chord of D minor. And then that D minor chord, of course, is chord 2 in C major. So you could put this on some kind of loop, doodle around it, see where you go. Anyway, just an idea to play with. And the idea of this is kind of really for practical musicians. If you're a keyboard player or a guitarist, well, what happens if you just try and get your fingers on these 4 chords and then you just try punching some rhythm into it, or you decorate the melody a little bit, or you decorate the bass a little bit, or you do a bit of arpeggiation, or a combination of all those things. And what happens if you put those 4 chords on a little kind of cycle, so you just kind of go round them a few times and see if you can generate a piece of music from them. And it might just give you more confidence in using extended chords. And then, of course, by all means, experiment, find your own extended chords, work out which extended chords kind of sound good next to which other extended chords. And you'll find it's quite an engaging journey to travel on. So there we are. So just 4 chords in our first of 8 videos on cool extended chord progressions. Well, if you've enjoyed this video, let me take you to the Music Matters website, www.mmcourses.co.uk. Now, if you are a keyboard player and you're thinking, yeah, I could do with just getting chords under my fingers generally, you might be interested in our keyboard harmony course. It's a pretty extensive course that starts right at the beginning with those basic triads and how to find them. And then it goes through a whole spectrum of chords and how you can kind of get chords going under your fingers. So it's really good for improvisation. It's really good for harmony, understanding chords. It's really good for getting fluent under your fingers. And lots of people have told us since they've done that course how much their sight reading has improved because they understand the chords that they're reading and they're playing. And of course, really good for composers because you can kind of get a feel for things under your fingers. So That's the keyboard harmony course. If you're not a keyboard player and that's not for you, there's loads of other stuff on the website. So do have a look. www.mmcourses.co.uk.